Welcome to the Lynn and Scott Show. I'm Lynn Serrano with my...
I'm Scott Jones. Thanks for joining us. And we've got all our friends here, Lynn.
Yes, we do. We got Rex Sikes. Go to rexsikes.com. We've got Scott Two Hips Schilling. And we got Barry Selby. And we got our newcomer here, John Horton, who I'm glad he came back another week.
Still the rookie. Still the rookie. Thanks for the invite.
But we invited him to make Scott feel good because he also needs to write a book.
I gotta do that by next week, Scott. I gotta get one out by next week.
It is possible.
I'm working on something special for next week, so we'll have something. We'll have something. I'm going to write a book between now and next Tuesday.
There we go.
Well, you better get it on Amazon, or it didn't happen.
Yeah. Hey, coloring books are still books, aren't they?
There we go. Still books. Yeah, you got it, man.
We're not judgmental.
Why don't we just annoy Lynn and write one together, Scott? Like we'll co-author it together. That way it's a tie.
Oh, excellent.
I think you should make a flip book.
Yeah.
Make a flip book.
Why don't we just title it "All My Friends Have Written Books, So Here You Freaking Go"?
That's
what we're going to call it.
Oh, so go ahead, Scott.
Oh, okay.
We aren't bitter, are we, Scott?
No, not bitter. I'm not bitter at all. I'm not. There's bile that creeps up and burns the back of my throat, but that's not bitter. That's not bitter.
What is it? Pungent?
Yes.
That's a bad Friday.
It is the juice of life, people. Actually, I brought this up because, again, we've had another. I guess it would categorize as a mass shooting. 5 people killed. 3 more, yeah.
I mean, since last week, we've had 3 in the last day or 2.
Exactly. And, one of the things we are always talking about self-improvement, and we do spend a lot of time talking about how to treat other people and how to create a better you, to create a better world, and all of these things. We talk about this stuff. How do we go on in the face of all of this? I mean, it's really easy to get caught up in the anger, in the violence, and there's peaceful people that get angry and get violent about the violence that's going on. It's like a sick cycle. Even when I talk about it, and I talk about, listen, we're worried about the wrong things. We're fighting Roe v. Wade instead of dealing with the fact that our kids are being shot in schools. We're doing all the wrong things. How do you get by in all of this? And are we supposed to just say, at least it's not on my block? Or, how are we supposed to deal with this? I would love your opinions on this stuff. And if it does make you angry, like it makes me angry.
Can I jump in?
I would love you to jump in, Rex.
I take exception. I take umbrage. I hate you. I'm kidding. But for saying we're dealing with Roe v. Wade, that is about a choice about women have to make. That's about their reproductive rights. That should be sovereign. We shouldn't even have to be dealing with something like that. Dealing with the trans issues, dealing with banning books, dealing with restricting rights of access to medical care, insurance, whatever it might be. Those we aren't dealing with, along with the gun violence that's going on in this country. We have there's probably one going on right now, sadly. And I don't mean that as a joke, but at any given second, violence erupts in this country. And part of it, I do believe, is perpetuated. I think there are people who absolutely want it. It creates chaos and discord and confusion, and you can control people when they're off balance and when they're hurting and they're in pain. And they give all these platitudes of thoughts and prayers, but they don't ever solve anything. And and I'm going to get off my soapbox, but what you're seeing are when they say that a child today may not see 40, because a kid in kindergarten right now may not see 40 because of a gun death. You have gun deaths in this country. You have prescription overdoses, both legal and otherwise. Some of the most egregious, the most difficult things that people face are losing loved ones through drugs or through violence or horrible accidents or something like that. but something needs to be done. And you know who's going to save us if they're going to save us? It's going to be the kids. And now they don't want the kids to vote.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to take away our future is the children. And if you restrict the children from being able to do things or raise the voting age or do this or the other, you're just, again, trying to control everybody. So I do think it's orchestrated, whether it's orchestrated by both parties or one party or an oligarchy or the universe. I don't know. But I do think that I think there's a side to it that is just natural and another side to it that's a bit nefarious.
Well,
I gotta say thank you, Rex, and I love you, man, because you said it better than I could about the Roe v. Wade and the trans issues and all that stuff. People are spending time trying to decide how they're going to make my daughter, who is now my son's, life difficult, but not worrying about the fact that some kids aren't going to have a life because we're not doing anything about this. And Jacques made a comment about mental health as a real pandemic. That is true. If we dealt with our mental health issues, then the guns wouldn't be as much of an issue. They're still an issue, but they wouldn't be as much of an issue. But we're still not serving our disadvantaged population with mental health and health benefits. And I don't understand. It makes me angry. So right back to you, Rex.
But it shouldn't be one or the other. It's not guns or mental health. Mental health is always going to be an issue whether there are guns involved or not. So take it off the table. Stop blaming gun violence on mental health issues, because there are plenty of people with mental health issues who don't pick up guns and who don't go there and don't get them. And then there are those who may, and then there are those who are just shits that are going to take a gun and kill somebody for whatever reason, whether it's a death by cop or whether it's death, I mean, it's just the problem that we have. I'm sorry, I don't mean to, but the problem we have is the kind of media stuff that goes on. If somebody says, it's this or it's that or it's this or it's that, it's always something that doesn't actually address the issue.
Right.
Right. And so I'm going to address something just as simple as this. I mean, whether you're on this side or that side, we forget we should treat everybody equal, right? And I'm just using this as an example, but like Jacques said hi to Scott. I know Jacques, and he said hi to Mary. And, some people might take offense to that. I'm just using that as an example. What's wrong with just saying hello or whatever? I'm just saying people are so sensitive about which side people are on anymore. And I think that's where we start realizing that we should treat everyone nice and everyone in the same field without prejudging or pre-picking or putting somebody in front of somebody else. I'm just saying that's one of our issues, is just already people are predestined, whether you look black, yellow, whatever, all these different things.
So,
and go ahead, Barry, you want to say something? Yeah.
Well, first of all, the title of the room is addressing the violence in the world, not just in America. So let me start with that point first of all.
Right.
That's true.
What's happening in this country is not unique to this country in terms of the people who are, quote, in charge, and it's a small minority, are people who want to keep the rest of the population following them. The way they do that is by scaring them about the other people who are not the same as them. That's the way they portray it. And that's not true. Like you were saying, Lynn, we are all the same.
Right.
But if we actually own that, those people in charge wouldn't be in charge anymore. And the problem is they want to hold to power through fear, because that's the only way they know power is through fear. Yeah. They don't understand power through love, compassion, kindness, and everything else. Martin Luther King had a good message, about the love is the true way of doing it. We're in God's kingdom, that idea. And frankly, in other countries, because this is actually, this is the 25th anniversary of the sign of the Accords to stop the Troubles in Northern Ireland, and so, which was happening. I remember that. I was in London when the bombs went off, so I vividly remember the violence that happened there. It wasn't close. It was in the same building I was in, but it wasn't close to me directly. Wow. But basically, when I had earthquakes over here, living in LA, that reminded me of that feeling of the what was supposedly stable and absolutely unable to move being shaken, and that's what I experienced with the bomb. The thing is that there is this bizarre thing we do as humans, which we've done forever, is that my tribe is better than your tribe, so we're going to dominate and take over, so we need the space. Now we're doing it with missiles and atomic bombs and occupations and everything else. It's really no different, except we haven't figured out to finally realize that 8 billion people on the planet will not survive if we don't learn how to work together. And the challenge we have is because also, and there's the other part, is the walls that get created between populations by politics, by media, by everything else that creates us thinking the other people are bad, therefore we need to stay away from them, or we need to attack them. So we have this messaging system in the world that doesn't allow us to, I mean, let me back up. The internet came out and we thought that would be the great equalizer. The internet would be the World Wide Web. So everybody can connect to each other and find each other and bypass all of the boundaries that we had been put up by media and by everything else. So now we're in a place where we can shift that if we really wanted to. We could use the internet, although some countries, again, is restricted because they want to control them. But in this country, as far as I know, we have a relative freedom on the internet to be able to communicate like we do this show. So the possibilities we have are to change things, but it has to be grassroots. It has to be us individually, not the people in charge. And most of us, unfortunately, default to them, thinking they'll fix it, which they never do. It's got to be us.
Absolutely, I agree with that 1,000%. You're right. The division in tribes and our tribe's better than, and then we got within our tribe. Then we start creating divisions within your own tribe, where okay, maybe the United States or America is a tribe, and then all right, well now we're going to separate them into Democrat and Republican. Then we're going to separate that from right to left, and then we're going to separate that from dark to light or whatever it might be. There's all these different divisions, and people are so willing to jump on the side that they chose. They never stop to think about what does that represent? What are the decisions that are being made? And this is worldwide. This is everywhere. And I think Rex was right. This is purposeful. It's purposeful. If you keep all the children fighting, nobody cares what the adults are doing. When the kids are fighting, nobody cares. Mom and dad could be off doing anything. And that's what I feel like we're in a society where keep all the people fighting down on the ground, and then we can do whatever we want up here above them, and we can get away with everything. I feel like that's happening to us. Like we're getting... And it is a grassroots movement, but how much grass do we have to grow to get any kind of movement?
Go ahead, Rex.
Well, thank you. I appreciate this, Scott. You know, if you shine a flashlight here, all the other stuff that goes on over here, you can't see. This is spotlighted. Right. And all of the good things that we have in the world, you know, like the internet and media, I mean, it's all good, can also be used for less than good purposes. Yeah. So politically around the world, I personally believe that a handful of people run the planet. That handful could be 5,000 people, but it's a significantly smaller number. But they carve up everything. They carve up banking and finances and food distribution and, you know, I mean, everything. So there's a huge shift of wealth in this country and around the world from the bottom to the top, and the reluctance to give it away. But while they're doing this, we're down here arguing amongst ourselves whether, you know, we can share bathrooms with men who are dressed as women or who identify as trans or whatever. You know, I mean, all the stuff that gets people riled. And yet what's going on? You know, it's like what's going on at the federal level in the United States, we miss what's going on at the state level or the local level. And that's where a lot of changes are happening too inside this country, is that things, rights and privileges and things are being taken away at a local level and a regional level and things like that, not just the federal level. So how do you combat all this stuff? I would offer this, is you don't combat it. You love yourself, you love and compassion your way into it. If you I jokingly would say you fight fire with fire, but if you punch me and I punch you back harder, then you're going to want to punch me back harder. You're going to get your big brother to punch me up. It's never going to end. And that's how we've been going on. Yeah, it just escalates, Barry. But it's been going on for eons. You know, the world doesn't have borders, but we've created societies with borders, and now we have countries, and then we have government. So, you know, yes, last week we said, we talked about first, seek to do no harm, and second, seek to do good. I think that's the only way you're going to deal with hate. That said, if the six of us are all together in a group and there's a bunch of people near us yelling, no one will hear our message, because those who yell the loudest are the ones who are heard. Right. So I think you have to love the loudest. Mm-hmm. And lastly, that said, Lincoln was shot trying to free the slaves. Gandhi was shot trying to do things. Martin Luther was shot trying to create equality for his people. John Kennedy was shot. I mean, Jesus was crucified. You can historically, people who attempt to do good end up paying a price, and the people around them don't want them to be there. So there may be great sacrifice, but I think it's through love and through compassion and through kindness, and not through trying to hate them and call them stupid and dumb and things like that, because violence won't. What you resist will persist.
Love out loud. I love that. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. John or no,
Yeah.
Scott.
Well,
okay, Scott, what do you think?
Well, I was going to say, Rex, you're dead on. I mean, I wrote down a couple things as you were talking and Barry was talking, and this conversation back and forth. One of the great quotes that was, I mean, it's one of those you just go, wow, was Ben Carson as a neurosurgeon. He said, every time I open up a head, it's gray.
Yeah.
It doesn't reflect male, female. It doesn't reflect white, black, green, purple. It doesn't, a brain is a brain. And we've gotten to a point of absolutes, polar opposites. You can't disagree with somebody or there's, that's an absolute. So the fact is there are less people willing to have a civil conversation rather than putting a stake in the ground and wanting to be right. I agree with you wholeheartedly, Rex. This is, and I never believed this for years and years and years, that anybody would be evil enough to want to create evil to separate people. I never believed that was a possibility. And then people came out with truth and facts. And it's amazing how truth and facts actually show that there are people who are propagating stuff. And it's not a conspiracy theory.
Right.
Open your eyes. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just happening. I mean, I would have never thought that people could do some of the heinous things that they've done, especially over the last 3 years. I've got friends who have been sued by the FTC, lost their medical practices, lost their stuff because the only thing they wanted to do is share truth.
Yeah.
I had a buddy who was the first doctor sued by the FTC for $8 million because he had the audacity to recommend vitamin C, zinc, and D3.
Right.
Wow.
And so the point is, when something like that happens to somebody close to you, at least for me, what I did, I don't take everything at his face value either. I started reading and I started studying and I started exploring, and it makes you sick because if the truth will come out, and it ain't going to be pretty, because there are people that are purposely working to create divides. And so enough of that. Let's stipulate that's happening.
All right.
I feel like a lawyer all of a sudden, right? Let's stipulate.
But it's true. When the truth comes out,
that's happening. So how do you address the violence in the world? Number one, spread as much good stuff as you possibly can. The reality is, shows like this, and if we can have a show, for God's sakes, anybody can have a show. Have a show.
True enough.
And start sharing good stuff. I mean, there's got to be good stuff to match the less than good stuff. And every once in a while, if you've noticed, there might be a rally or there might be somebody, and one person is just standing there and the other person is screaming in their face.
Yeah.
And they just take it. And then they say, "Can I talk now?" And they talk, and all of a sudden, guess what? The screaming stops. Is it possible that this is whatever it is, right? The only, I mean, it's not the only way, but a main way of addressing this violence and all this is personal responsibility. Is go back. Some of us more mature folks can remember when we actually got taught things in school, like, I don't know, reading, writing, and arithmetic. You know, things that were actually going to serve humanity. We learned those things, and whatever happened around us. And guess what? Nobody was really pissy about it. If that's what you want to do, do it. If that's what I want to do, do it. You'll have consequences for it. What's happened is consequences are not consistently doled out today. And if there's no consequence, that's when the stupidity hits. I mean, we knew what was right and wrong, Scott. I mean, my God, look at what you've been through in your life. You knew what was right. You knew what was wrong. And you did the not right stuff for a period of time until you went, gosh, I could do the right stuff and life would be better. Congratulations. That's awesome. You're a great inspiration with that. That's what this is society has got to, you know, and if it's one by one, it's one by one. Hey, we're playing from behind, gang. The nice people are playing from behind. The media, they aren't on our side. The government, they're not on our side. The pharmaceutical companies, they're not on our side. I mean, let's look at where all the military complex, not on our side. So who does it have to be? It has to be us.
Yeah.
We've got to be sharing better messages and saying, yes, there is hope. There is opportunity. And I'll go to, you know, I'm pretty sure Sunday was Easter. Pretty sure.
Yeah.
Now, you don't have to believe what anybody else believes.
There's only one Easter. There's a lot of celebrations of it, but there was only one Easter.
Well, but it was co-opted. It was co-opted.
Although the Greek Orthodox would say there's a different Easter.
Right.
The point being, believe in a higher source. I'm not it. Rex isn't it. Barry's not it. John's. None of us are it.
Right.
Something is it, and it ain't us. So believe what you believe. Be a living example of that. Do great things. Encourage people. Make somebody smile for no particular reason. Have a good time. Look at the examples like a Scott Jones and go, God bless you, brother. You did great. You came through it.
Yeah.
Because you took the responsibility. We all have to do it. Think about it.
That's the one.
As if we're all addicted to stupidity right now. And we need to get off being stupid.
And wake up. Yeah.
I love that.
But not only that, also is to really be willing to look in the mirror.
Yeah.
What you said is so key. Most people, frankly, are so worried about matching, competing with somebody else, comparing against somebody else. Even just in peaceful times, it's like they got a better car than I do. I don't feel good. Rather than saying, what can I do to change my state? They start judging the other person's car. That happens on a global scale too. We get in this trap of thinking if we fix them, we'll feel better, which is not the way. And so the reality it comes back to, as you said, exactly, is do good things and really work on our own stuff. I mean, I've been in this personal development field for almost 40 years. I'm still learning how to be a better person. So I'm not saying it's you do it overnight, but the thing is, I know enough now when somebody upsets me, I don't get upset with them. I do the work myself, because that's the lesson I had to keep learning was when somebody gets upset with me, so that I need to recognize, is it real? Is it accurate? If it is, do something about it. If it's not accurate, it's not my issue. But most people, unfortunately, are walking around with such, it's almost like having their skin on inside out. They're so sensitive. When somebody does something like cars, I mean, over in LA, the road rage on the 405, that was a real thing of it. So people seem to be either one, so wound tight that anything triggers them. So take a detox, take a break, go do something. Or they just like that as a stimulus. It seems to be one of those two things people get driven by. So when we learn that the true stimulus comes from kindness and compassion and love, And when someone does something, first of all that stuff out there is just stuff. If we didn't get invested in it, we would be actually more at peace, frankly, as well. Now, of course, all these things I'm talking about, most people haven't got a clue what that is. So I know I'm speaking to people who are already tuned into the frequency. But ultimately, we have the best we can do is, like I was on a Zoom call this morning. It said, here's the thing: when we go in the world, how do you treat the barista? How do you treat the person pushing the carts at the retail store? How do you treat somebody in the parking lot? Do you let somebody just park in the spot that you're fighting for? That's the thing: is the more you can learn to be compassionate and kind to those around you, that creates a ripple effect, like you were saying, Scott. So that's the way. Be nicer in parking lots, be nicer on the freeway, be nicer in the stores. Start there.
Absolutely.
And it kind of goes back to, and first of all, I need to Google half of what Rex said. Those words were huge, Rex, so I'll do that and we'll connect again next week. But if you look at how we kind of ended last week, go make 6 people happy. Go make 10 people happy. Look at the 6 of us on here. Look at the comments from Mary Kay and Sandy. And it's common sense, man. It's not going to change overnight. But if you reach out, and like you said, make them happy in the parking lot. Tell someone thank you. Tell someone hold the door for. When's the last time you held the door for someone, and what do they say to you? Thank you. Hey, that's what I'm supposed to do. That's why I'm here. If you can leave them smiling, what are they going to do? And it's not going to end the violence. It's not going to end any of this. But if you can hit the 6 of us, the 20 people on here, the 50 people that are going to watch this, take that times 10, 500 people. No, that's not good math. Yes, it is. So take that.
He's just a mortgage guy. Don't.
Mortgage guy, but that's what we have.
Can you handle my mortgage for me, please?
Like, I have a meeting every Tuesday with my team. There were 40 people on there today, and the point was play phone roulette. Like, what the hell are you talking about? I said, flip through your phone, stop at 10 people, say good morning, have a nice day. I haven't talked to this guy in years. Right, but what's he going to do? He's going to have a good day. He's going to thank you for doing that.
Hey, John.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say, and don't pick the 10 people they say. When you see their names, don't say, oh, I'm not going to call him.
Oh, no, you got to stop. Who's ever on top. You flip your contact.
Exactly.
Who's ever on top, you hit it. I don't care if it's an ex-wife. I don't care what it is.
That's exactly what I mean.
To the game, you do it. And guarantee you 90% will get back to you. Either with, who are you? You're no longer in my contact. Nice to hear from you. What are mortgage rates? Or thanks so much. That was nice. So we flipped it last week, and I said, right. Send this message and give them little scripts. Here's 10 people, but say, do me a favor. Find 10 people and do the same thing. Mm-hmm. So maybe in the course of 9 to 9:30 Chicago time last Tuesday, 500 people were reached. And again, it's baby steps, man. It's not going to happen overnight, but if everyone commits to doing it just a little, everyone takes their phone and just sends a message to somebody. Maybe they're having a horrible day. Maybe you just saved them from something you have no idea what you saved them from. But it takes 2 minutes, man. It's not time consuming, but it's meaningful.
That's beautiful.
That's where I was going to go, John.
Beautiful.
We've all heard the stories of how the person was going to end their life, jump off a bridge, hurt somebody, do something stupid, whatever, and something woke them up.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it was another person, whether it was somebody giving them a hug, whether it was all those stories you hear, it's typically not a big thing.
No.
And you know, the as Rex was saying, you know, Martin Luther King, Gandhi, all the do-gooders saw they saw the oppression sooner. They saw the stupidity coming sooner, and they just chose to do something about it, and they paid the ultimate sacrifice for it. And, you know, not saying that everybody has to pay the ultimate sacrifice, but how hard is it to be nice?
You know,
how hard is it to say thank you? It's not.
Yes.
I heard a nice little story that happened right in my neck of the woods here. 12-year-old boys were getting ready to go fishing, and they stopped at the corner gas station to get some bait and to get some candy and stuff. Well, they get to the register. They didn't have enough money, so they started putting some of their stuff back. And a younger adult came by and goes, you know, you guys are doing something like fishing. I want to buy all your stuff. And they bought their stuff, and they came out and they told their mom how they were surprised that somebody did something kind And what an impact, and how nice was that? He says, you're not doing something stupid, so I want to reward you by paying for the stuff that you wanted to get. And I thought that was such a great story.
It's simple gestures. We have a guy at the office, and every Christmas he hands all of us 10, he calls them homeless bags. And in these bags is deodorant, shampoo, toothbrush, toothpaste, $5, couple Nutri-Grain bars. He said, put these in your car and get rid of these by January 1st. You don't even think about it. And I literally had one in the back of my car 2 weeks ago. And there was this gentleman at the street corner, and homeless vet, not homeless vet, whatever his sign said. I gave it to him. I thought he was going to jump in my car and hug me. And you know what? He might have told 5 of his other homeless friends, hey, watch for this guy in the black Jeep, man. He's got $5 and a toothbrush for you. But, even as simple as that was, that story went back to wherever those poor gentlemen and ladies were spending the night, but it made 5 or 6 people happy. And maybe maybe he shared that bag with someone, man. It just kills me how simple it can be, how simple gestures that don't cost you a penny can change a lot of things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you know what I would add, and if you'd come with me on this journey for a second, when humans were pre-conscious, before they had a frontal lobe developed, they just were. They moved, they foraged, they did whatever. If you think about the development of language and the development of our ability to choose and decide, language joins us, but it also separates us. From language, we get here, there, them, us, black, white, up, down, past, present, future. I mean, humans have the ability to classify and to categorize everything, and we do. So those are the bad people. These are the good people. I'm one of these good people. They're not this, they're that, they're red, they're right, they're blue, they're green, they're whatever. There's a certain amount of mass hypnosis that goes on in this world. I don't believe there's a government. I don't believe in the FDA. I don't believe in the, and yet I do, because I understand it. But all of these organizations that we talk about, and all of them that we talk about, are comprised of humans, individuals who band together under a banner of something that's then called, and then we blame that label, or we blame that body, or we blame that government, or we blame that country, or we blame that, whatever. And it's important to understand that things are what they are. Birds have 2 wings, and they can't fly with just one. And there's this notion of the law of cause and effect that says for every cause there's an equal and opposite effect. So if there's going to be good and bad, there's going to be good and bad in the world. But the thing that happens for us, because of what we consume and the people we hang around and the messages that we have purported to be, and by the way, when I think of conspiracy, I don't think it has to be people joining together to say, let's take over the world. It's just tacit. The people have their own interests that happen to align but there could be. But what I'm getting at is that we end up buying into this notion that it's worse than it actually is because things are happening. Right now we're hurtling around the sun at like 60,000 miles an hour, but we don't notice it. Our trees aren't being blown all over the planet. We're actually, standing horizontal to, the South Pole, essentially. So we're on the side of the planet, but we think we're upright. Our ability to be unaware is incredible. And our ability to focus on certain things is just as incredible, at the exclusion of other things. There's incredible love and goodness and wonderfulness and kindness and generosity, and individuals doing exactly what John and Barry and Scott and Lynn have said. There, that bumper sticker, if it's to be, it's up to me. There are people who live that and live compassion and live kindness. It doesn't get noticed in the media. It doesn't get consumed by the people. It's not recognized because it's, if it bleeds, it leads kind of thing. It's not news to have good things happen. News is not bad. Well, who decided that? We did. And that's
you're absolutely right.
To not be taken by the illusion that the world is just horrible. There are terrible things that go on from time to time and in mass numbers and things. But the one lesson that I always try and impart from Napoleon Hill is Edward C. Barnes going to meet Edison, as a hobo, essentially. And Edison said there was nothing about him that was worth knowing except that this look in his eye. So I gave him a job as a janitor. And if you turn the page, it says for 5 years, with no evidence that he would ever be a partner to Edison, he kept his desire alive within him until an opportunity presented itself. He ignored the circumstances of being a janitor in order to keep the idea that he would be a partner of Edison, so that when the opportunity arose, he said, "I'll sell those things," and he did, and he fulfilled his purpose in life. We have to, at the one hand, we have to be sensitive to what's going on, but ignore it, not let it get us down, not let it get us distracted, not let it get us morose, not let it get us off track, not let us get off target. But if we want to create peace in the world and love in the world and compassion, is to do what John is saying, and to do what Scott and each of us is saying, and that is random acts of kindness, and not just random acts, but purposeful acts of kindness, with intention on a daily or hourly or minute-to-minute basis. But you also have to manage this, because if you don't, all of the stuff that we've also talked about is the stuff that seeps in and gets people off track and off target. So,
you know what? I'm going to agree with everything you said there, Rex, except for one thing: is not everybody has developed that prefrontal cortex, but we do need, and they're all employed at the DMV. So just in case you're wondering where they're all at.
Judgment.
See the absolutes that pop up.
Yeah.
So,
but
I
got to ask this question. I mean, I want you guys to continue to talk, because what I got to offer is so limited compared to what you guys are throwing out there. But I want to ask this while we're talking: do we have a responsibility to be kind? Is this a responsibility we have? You know what I'm saying? Should we live as it's our job to make this a better place? I mean, is it a responsibility?
It's got to start with us. It's got to start with us, right?
So
and it's got to start.
So here's the thing. I want to give you something on that. There's a report. I can remember where it is. I can't find the article anymore. There was I believe, and I could get it all wrong in terms of location, but I believe it was in Chicago.
This is a horse thing again.
No. It was a group of people that did a meditation over a period of time in Chicago, and they proved, because the crime rate went down, the murder rate went down over a period of time, and it corresponded. They proved.
Maharishi.
Thank you. I know it's real. I'm not making it up.
Yeah.
But the thing is that we do have a choice.
Barry, I want you to continue. I'm just saying they've done that particular organization, along with others, and Robert Benson, anyway, have done numerous studies around this, and they continually come back to the same conclusion, that when people meditate and are peaceful, that surrounding that event is a decrease. They found that with Super Bowl and boxing matches, that if people did a group meditation prior to those, that the incidences of spousal abuse were decreased as well. So you're right on target. You're right.
Wow.
And I want to add one more piece to that. It was David Hawkins. Yeah, because not the one in the wheelchair, but the one who wrote book Power versus Force. Robert Hawkins. Someone hanging in the background.
Yeah.
Anyway, so basically, I was at a workshop he did. This is going back many years before he passed away. He was teaching from the front of the room, and he decided to do kinesiology and muscle testing, where they put your arm out and pull it down, that type of thing.
Kinesiology.
Anyway, so basically, we had probably 800 people in the room, and so he basically decided to muscle test us he would have us basically send out positive vibes to the person on stage. He was using them as a control. He basically had their arm out, pulled it down, and he basically had to see how hard he could pull it down. And what he was doing was calibrating our positive energy against negative people out in the world. Out of 800 people had the equivalent positive energy to offset something like 5 million people thinking negative thoughts. The point being is that it's not 1-to-1 ratio. If like, if 6 of us got together and hold a positive space, not by doing anything physically with anybody else, but our influence will impact 20, 30, 40 people just with our vibrations. So we don't have to necessarily go and shake somebody by the neck and say, you need to be positive. We can just hold the space. And one quick thing I want to say as well, I have a belief from what I've been going through in my own spiritual journey, there were spiritual beings having a human experience. Can we see anybody and everybody, who, even the ones who murdered, as spiritual beings having a human experience? I mean, that's the homework assignment for the life, for the eons. If we can see everybody through that lens, including those people who are being nefarious and being dark and being negative, can we see them in the light? Because the thing is, by seeing that way, we might move them that way.
And it's funny, Barry, and the one and only Debbie Bettendorf just jumped on, so she knows this better than anybody. But it's a whole mindset And I got in this. It was a mortgage class again. It was about mindset. It's an awesome class. I thought I literally was joining a cult, but they pushed mindset. And I'm like, come on, man, this is not me. I don't believe it. They're like, stick with it for 6 weeks. I've stuck with it for 3 years. And now on the Instagram, they're the mindset videos. The first thing I do, I know you're not supposed to look on your phone as soon as you get up, but I get up, man. First thing I do is open it up. And all of a sudden, when you're following one mindset person, by the time you get out of bed 15 minutes later, between Mel Robbins, between Debbie, between Lynn, between everybody else, you're jumping out of bed, man. Your feet are on the ground. I don't care what time it is. I get up early, but you start that day and then you spread that to other people. And you're like, man, I know you don't believe me. I didn't believe it. But when you start thinking it and it starts happening, it scares the crap out of you because it doesn't stop. And there was some lady this morning that said we all have an internal thermostat that when you reach the success levels you want to reach, you tend to pull back. Don't pull back because you're closer to getting what you want. Once you pull back, now you're back with all those other people. So keep pushing and bring those other people with you to do it. I've got some guys at work that started doing it. And a guy came in today. He goes, what the hell is going on? It's been 6 weeks. I said, give it 6 weeks. And in your head, you're literally going to hear something click. Not a bad thing. It's a good click. And it's going to start. And that's when you keep it going. And then you watch these videos, 30 seconds, minute videos. And you hang out with people like you. And man, I'm ready to go now. I don't know what the hell time is it in Chicago. It's 80 degrees. It's phenomenal. It's 6:40. And I'm texting the hell out of people as soon as I get off this thing to wish them a good night. Hope your day was well. Hope things are good. And you know what? They might get it in the morning, but thanks to you guys, that's another 10 or 15 people. But it comes back to basic mindset. Be positive. And just do what you're supposed to do.
So here's an interesting thing. They, I've been doing this between 40 and 50 years, and I got involved based on the placebo effect and back with studies that demonstrated that you could.
Starting to sweat. I got to take my coat off. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, that's okay. So back on the notion that you could heal your body and your mind. But it turned out through various studies that it is now considered attitude is the number one predictor for success in all areas of our lives. Attitude is the number one thing that determines how far you'll go or whether you go at all or whether you quit along the way. Because, people think persistence, but persistence is an attitude. It's not the activity of persistence. Right. Because if your mind says stop, the body will stop. Because it just tends to work that way, and yet we found people who oftentimes didn't think they could get somewhere and did, and they surprised themselves by tapping into the inner resources and inner abilities. So mindset matters, and the thing that my tagline has always been: celebrate everything. That means everything. The people who suck around you, the world experiences that suck around you, your personal experiences, your personal lack, just celebrate it. Because if you're grateful for everything, then nothing's a problem. If you only like some things and don't like other things, then everything that you don't like can be a problem, or everything you like is the problem. I mean, it could be that too. So, but if you've lived with gratitude and you understand going back to Scott's question, is it our responsibility to be good or to be kind or to be generous? I was 25 years old when I said, I own this planet. And I've had to explain to other people I share it. I have co-owners. I'm not walking through everybody's backyard claiming their territory as mine. But when I decided that whether I have been here millions of times or will be millions of forget all that stuff for a second. That guy is here right now. Right? Yep. And this guy is going to sometime leave. All right. Right. While I'm here, I own it. And if I own it, how do I want to take care of it? Because if they own it, what do I care? But if I own it, I care. So if we're all decide that we're owners of the planet, some people may say, hey, you're on my grass. But the point is this my grass too, but I'm letting you have it. I mean, we have to understand that it is our responsibility to understand what a sacred responsibility it is, to love it, to enjoy it. This reality that we have right now while hurtling around the sun with all the violence and hatred and everything is a total gift.
Yep.
And the fact that you're all here on the show and you're above ground is a gift.
Yes.
Yep.
And we don't act like
Absolutely.
it from time. We act like it's a curse because the bank is doing this or the car isn't doing that or the weeds need to be pulled. And so, the notion of majoring in minor things is such a truism because we find all the reasons that things suck instead of all the reasons why things are good.
Yep.
And we see these platitudes of I learned more through hardship, but it's true.
Yeah.
Yep.
But we can't treat it as a poster. We have to actually embrace it and embody it and let it permeate our DNA so that it radiates from us as we move through the world. And everything that Barry was saying about the meditation and the space and the holding and the positivity that each and every one of you do does create a ripple effect. It does create this climate, but if, love, just love, just be love.
Rex, I appreciate all that, but I want to move Scott Schilling into the center square. He's been chewing on something for a little bit now.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, but you ask a question: is it our responsibility?
Yes.
Take a look at the word responsibility. It's the ability to respond. That's the bottom line, right? Let's not get. So it's our ability to respond. Everything that Rex said, everything that everybody said has been brilliant. You look at the studies of Dr. Emoto, the hidden messages of water, where he literally took water, froze it, said, love, love, love. And it was crystalline and beautiful. And all he said is the word Hitler, and it was dark and muddy and nasty. So, I mean, it's such an amazing read. A couple of the two studies that he did, the hidden messages in water. But in 2009, I was speaking in Louisville, Kentucky, and the hotel was right next to a Ford motor plant. And Ford had just laid off all sorts of people. And everywhere there were stakes and signs in the ground. Shit happens. And there were billboards. S happens. And there were bumper stickers. Shit happens. And I mean, it was everywhere. It was permanent. And here we are. We're trying to present an educational product from stage, and everybody's right. Shit happens, right? And I went, grace happens too. And I actually bought the URL that day and have run multiple programs of just grace happens too. It's which one are you going to focus on?
Yeah.
Are you going to focus on the when I first was introduced, Barry, Jack Canfield, we did the same thing. We had an entire audience of people, and he had somebody come up and they muscle tested him and believe that you've got this fountain of white light and just coming over the top of you and everything. And, boom. And hundreds of people throwing positive energy. You couldn't get that arm to move for nothing. And he said, okay, I walked up to somebody before this exercise, and you know what you're supposed to do right now. Everybody throw the positive energy. Come on. And you know what you're supposed to do. And that one person out of a crowd of hundreds threw negative energy, and that person went weak. It was phenomenal. And I've used that in trainings ever since to just show the power of belief, the power of whatever. I mean, has anybody noticed the last 3 years have been tough? I mean,
it's behind us now,
right? I mean, you're not on puppy uppers all the time. Not everything is great. You've got to come from a place. Quite frankly, this week, I had some stuff knock me down, and I was like, doggone it, I can't believe that. And I went, you know what? This too shall pass. I've got a great spiritual belief that all things work together for my good. Today's a new day. It's going to be a great day. I called a guy I haven't talked to in 4 years. He goes, hey, would you be interested in talking about being my chief sales officer? We haven't talked in 4 years. He goes, yeah, but you're the best sales guy I know. Okay, well, you're very perceptive. I see that. But the point was,
good taste.
Well,
Yes.
the point is, again, I don't care. Barry gets down at times. Now, he doesn't look like he ever gets down at times, but Barry gets down at times. How do I know that? He's breathing.
Mhm.
Rick does too. So does John. So does Lynn. So does Scott. So do I. It's not about the getting down.
Right.
It's about having systems in place. It's having people in place. It's one of the reasons why I'm going to keep on coming to this show and hopefully being on until I get thrown off. Why? Because I love to learn from you guys. I love to be part of it. It energizes me. It's great to be able to share things that could potentially serve other people. If it's only one person, God bless. I'm not a mind reader. I don't know who I'm supposed to help, when I'm supposed to help, or what I'm supposed to say to do it. And quite frankly, when you stop trying to figure that shit out and you just say from the heart what you feel, it makes a whole hell of a lot of difference. It really doesn't matter. By the way, John, that technique of contact list roulette is page 172 in my book. That sucks. What now?
Oh, page 72.
Is it really? I thought I made that up.
No,
Well,
it is actually in my book.
I mean, I read your book. I knew that. I didn't. I mean, yes, of course.
All right. Well,
Did you or didn't you?
I suggest anybody who does that roulette game first take all the contacts out that have active restraining orders. Just say it. then
It's always fun. It gives them a giggle.
Part of the game. Part of the game.
as long as we're shamelessly plugging Two Hips. Barry's going to be on my show with Mary Kay on Thursday night, so you guys get a chance to check it out. Thursday night at 7. I'll message all of you the link so you all know where we're at.
Awesome.
And tomorrow he's going to be on Debbie's show.
I'm a two for this week.
I've gotten him.
Oh,
I've gotten him a lot of business lately. I
What?
got him on Sandy's show the other day.
I'm just sitting and saying thank you.
I love you, Barry.
We chopped liver?
quite.
Yeah, we know who the favorite student is in the class right now, don't we?
Okay.
Hey, what can I say? Bribes works.
So listen, we got a few minutes left, and I guess let's end on a final thought. I mean, listen, we've all agreed that there's a mess going on out there. There's certainly lots to work on. There always will be. Part of the human condition is our frailties and our faults and in the things that we do. We're good and evil. We're right and wrong. We're happy and sad. We're all those things, and there's always going to be something to deal with. Just with 90 seconds for each of you as we go around for our closing thoughts. Does one person really make a difference? I mean, just kind of sew it up with that. I'll sew it up by, as I always say, always believe that the ripples in the pond, the ripples that you make in a pond, go out much further than you ever see. And many of them, the real impact is the underwater, where you never see it, but it is there. It happens. So let's go around the room. And Scott, as long as you're in center square, why don't you lead us off there?
Well, thank you. Great question. Does one make a difference?
Yes.
Goes back to the starfish story. In case you've never heard it before, the starfish is washing up on the beach, and somebody sees somebody off in the distance dancing around, leaning down, picking something up, tossing it towards the sea, dancing just joyously and everything. And the person walks up and says, "What are you doing?" He says, "I'm returning the starfish to the sea." Well, look, there's millions of them here. It can't possibly make a difference. He picks up one, throws it in, and says, "It did for that one."
Mm-hmm.
And that's really got to be the attitude. It's got to be, again, you don't know who you're going to positively impact with what story at what time. I'm phenomenally blessed that I've had amazing mentors that at some point in time got my attention enough to want to replicate them, learn from them, do whatever, and pass along not only my take on all that, but their take as well. Because when you see people doing good in the world, there's a certain part of you that wants to do good in the world.
Yeah.
Thanks, Scott. Thank you very, very much. John, what do you think?
You know what? That's a great question. And I think, does one person make a difference? I think the answer to that would be, it depends on the difference you make in that one person. When I do that, when I give a greeting, I want them to tell somebody about it. I don't want recognition for it. They don't know who I am, but I want them to bring it to someone else, and it goes back to the ripples in the pond. So one person makes a difference, because that may be one person for you, but how many people is that going to affect throughout the day? Could be 10, could be 50, could be 100, could be someone jumping on a podcast that has 1 million followers. It's like, guess what this guy did today? Guess what this woman did today? So one person makes a difference, but it's the difference you make on that one person.
Thank you, John. Well said. Well said. Barry.
Boy, I'll start with a couple of reminders. One is a quote from Richard Bach, which I love, from Illusions, which is, there's a way to discover if your mission on Earth is finished. If you're still alive, it isn't. So you've always got more time. You've always got much opportunities. The other one I'll just say is the definition of a successful walker is someone who got up one more time than they fell down. So even if you did do bad things, or you made mistakes and clumsy stuff, start doing good. Every single one is a step in the right direction. The thing about this work is it isn't once you become aware, you're perfect from then on. Hell no. I've had more dark nights of the soul since I started doing this work than before, because I'm aware of them. But the thing about it is, each time that happens, when I go through darkness or upset or woundedness, I know there's a way out. And that's what I'm grateful for more than ever, is that when I go through those dark pits, sometimes they suck, but they don't last very long, because I know better. Secondly, I know how to deal with them, because the recognition is, for a lot of people, it's about mental health at the beginning. For a lot of people, they think they're out of control. They don't have dominion over their own thoughts, their own feelings. And I'm grateful I've had the skills and lessons along the way that have taught me how to do that for myself. But the thing is, have compassion for those people around us who don't have that gift, who haven't learned that yet. If you have compassion for the victim as well as the victor, whatever that role is, the more compassion we bring to the planet. So be kind, be nice, yes, but do it from a place that's aware of what you're doing. Don't be nice just for the sake of doing it. Be kind, compassionate for those people who may need it more than ever.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Wow. Rex, do you think we could press you for one more quote? Do you think you got it in you, brother?
I'll give you one of my favorite quotes, is the Oliver Wendell Holmes quote, which is, mind stretched to a new idea can never go back to its original dimension. The more you stretch yourself, the more resilience you can demonstrate. But responsibility is not just the ability to respond. It's the ability to choose the response you want to have toward what it is. And when 28 happened, there were people going, "Oh, this is over. The economy in the USA has collapsed. My life is different. I lost all my job. I didn't work. COVID came. Whatever. It's all terrible." Another person said, 2008, best real estate year of my life. All the
right.
I've invested. I'm now a multi-billionaire because I invested in 2008 was fabulous. A tornado goes through a village. One person goes, "I've lost everything. I can't tell you how terrible it is." The other person goes, "It was just junk. Thank God, I was going to burn it down anyway." So attitude, mindset matters.
Yes.
And the problem is that people don't recognize their own mindset because they're living from within it. They're living from the habits and don't realize that they have the ability to choose to respond how they'd like to, instead of reacting the way that they traditionally always do. And until they awaken and become aware that they have that choice and that responsibility to make the choice and to further their mindset and to live with consciousness and peace and love and compassion and all that stuff, they'll only do what they've always done. And that is to whine and complain or blame or accuse or do whatever it is. And yet what we're here about is to say, when you can celebrate everything, when you're grateful, when you can shift your attitude and your ability to focus on things, you can become free. And if you can become free, you can help another person to become free. They've got to do it themselves, but you can light their path for them.
Yep, absolutely. And ask the CEO of Zoom how much COVID affected his business, right?
Exactly.
But
one further thing on that. Imagine this, that the technology was in place when COVID hit, that we could remain connected through social media and through Zoom. I mean, if ever there was some form of intelligence in the planet, it happened at a time when we could still thrive, even though we were separated in our own homes.
Yeah, and Clubhouse, which you can find Rex daily every day on in Clubhouse. So
please show up for Rex.
Yeah,
Or in the
show
house of the club. We don't know exactly what we mean.
Yeah, it's all changing now. Yeah, it is.
I just want to remind everybody that just remember, to feel good about yourself is you should treat everyone with the same kindness. Don't split hairs and treat somebody different than the other. If you're going to do it right. Be across the board and respect and give everybody the dignity that you give the other, whether they're the ones mopping the floor or driving the plane or whatever, or serving you food. I mean, nobody's beneath or above you. We just need to be human, because that's what makes a difference. I tell everybody that I see that works anything is I always let them know I appreciate you. Thank you. And I appreciate you. And we should appreciate each other. So.
Absolutely. And let me give a shout out for John here, because it is a feat to show up on our show once, but to come back a second time, that takes some balls. So thank you very much for being here, John.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. Thanks for the invite. You keep inviting, I'll keep showing up.
Okay.
There you go.
Awesome. All right.
Any last words from you, Scott, before I pull the plug on this?
Just once again, God bless you. I'm going to be taking away Grace Happens, and I love that. And maybe if we just kind of look around a little bit when we see a disaster in front of us, let's look around and see if there's some grace happening, because behind even 9/11, we saw some of the greatest acts of humanity and courage that we've ever seen in our lifetime. I'm not saying it's a shame that disaster has to bring that out, but if it's there, let's recognize it and try to build on that and stop trying to build on the fear and the hatred and all the other things. Let's build on that. And that's why Jacques, with his Gray movement, great thing to get involved in too. But all of you guys, I love you. Thank you so much for being here. And Lynn, you're the best. I'll tell you what, anybody in this group leads with their heart. It's Lynn Serrano. And thank you for doing what you do, Lynn.
Love you guys.
Absolutely.
Have a good one, guys. We'll see you
Thanks,
next
guys.
week.
We'll
Bye.
see you.
Keeping me safe and sound.